Okay, hello everyone. So now I'm going to do a morning stream instead. See if that's any better. And meanwhile, I have done nothing to this code except I did add some new thumbnails and some new tracks. I realized that last time I was actually using a royalty-free song, but it was still, I think I'm supposed to pay for it. So I hope that doesn't create any problems. I never played the full track. I never try to use it in any way like that. So these tracks should be fine. So yeah, let's go to our demo data and let's now use these 7 randomly to populate our app. So I can also already start our app so that it kind of looks a little better. This is for those of you that haven't seen the previous stream. Let's see, this is what it currently looks like without any. So now because I changed the thumbnail, none of the thumbnails are visible and the music won't play, but yeah, we're gonna fix that now. So here we go. And then if you click on something, it opens it up in the side like this. So very simple. It's a bit small, I guess. We'll adjust that over time. Let's see. Yeah, you guys can see this. Yeah. Okay, so let's add in the demo data. And again, feel free to leave comments on the video or suggestions or whatever. I might also start to do a bit more of a regular streaming schedule once I realize what I like in terms of timing. Hopefully my microphone is now a lot better than it was before. I accidentally used the wrong microphone last time, so I had this constant noise in the background because that thing is quite broken, which is why I bought a new microphone. Anyway, that's the one that you're hearing now, and I hope this one is better. Okay, so let's go to the hooks where we had a fake fetch. So this is a fake fetch file that actually just generates the stuff at the top, artists and tracks, and then gives them to the bottom. In fact, I'm going to just actually move this to another file like a constants.ts or something. And then I'll export them from here. Is this a problem? No, this is just a couple of things I need to import from types. Faker. There we go. That's better. And then fetch can kind of be a little smaller. Still fake because we're not actually loading it because we're just getting it from the constants file, but it's a good start. Yeah, we'll sort this out soon. Oh yeah, right. It always does the source stuff, even though it doesn't realize that it should just use a relative link. Small thing. Okay, so starting from here, we have these constants. They're currently wrong. It currently always does streams.mp3, but it needs to take track 1 to 7. So yeah, I guess there's multiple ways to do this, but the easiest would probably be just, let's see, thumbs, thumb, something dot png, and then that something will be a faker dot number integer where the minimum is 1 and the maximum is 7. And the same will go for the thumbnail. It'll be, oh sorry, this is the thumbnail. This is the track. So we'll do tracks. I think I called them the same, track 1 to 7. So .mp3. So that should give us fake songs. There we go. Randomly generated. Let's see if they play. Yeah. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, this kind of an important one, I guess, is this length property should actually really be the kind of length of the actual track. And that is kind of important because else this amount doesn't always relate and it's kind of annoying. But to figure that out, I guess I'm gonna have to manually, I guess for now, let's leave it. Let's just understand. Let's also reduce the length. Actually, if I just make the random length at least the maximum of the song, then that should be the easiest way. Let's see if I reveal this in the Explorer. Can I see the length of the actual track length? Okay, so the longest one, oh, but I have to kind of do it based on the shortest one, I guess. 40 seconds, that's too short. You know what, I'll just actually use this and okay, so how do we do it? We need to take the number that we have. Actually, maybe we should always associate the song with the same number. So what I can do is this will be n, const n, and then I can just take the same thumbnail, the same number. So I only generate it once, and then I use it the same one here. So we'll have URL, we have thumbnail, and now I need to have a set of lengths that correspond to, so let's say lengths that correspond to the length that it actually is. So we've got 40 for the first, well, we're using indexes here. So I guess I'll just do 0 for the first because that's index 0 and I want to give it 0 so that I can easily, you'll see in a second. So 40 seconds, this is 120, 133. This is 120 plus 40. And then the 3 minutes, 181, 153, 185, and 164. I hope I did that correctly. We'll see. Okay, good. So that's the length in seconds. And then we can go to length here and take the length from n. And this is where n makes sense because n minimum is 1. So that's why I'm not using the first of this array, right? Because that's index 0. So I'm just skipping that, putting a 0 there, and then putting the rest like this so I can easily get it out like that. So this should give me some data that has realistic values. And look, this is nice as well. They have the same kind of, they generate the same, or the song will be the same too. The artist will be different. Very good. Oh, and this is already a bug. I saw this yesterday also. So here we forgot to add the 0. I guess there's multiple places now in the app where this is the case. So let's go fix that. Let's see, where do we do that? This is the player. But I want to find all of them, but let's see. So I say if the track length or 0. Oh, do you think this needs additional, like it needs another one? No, according to this thing, it's fine. According to my editor, it's okay. But yeah, it's clearly not working, or maybe it's only here. Oh, is it here? Full seconds lower than 10. Yeah, that's wrong. It needs to be full seconds modulus 60. That's the problem. So where am I gonna find this again? Because I copied this from probably the track list or something. Let's see if we did it everywhere. So here we have it. So really it's lower than 10. Like we need to search for this. Every place that is like this, we need to have the same in it. So this looks good, this looks good, and that looks good. Okay, so that seems to be truly the only place where I didn't have it correct. So let's see. Yeah, now it's okay. Great. Good. So yeah, we've got songs, we've got them playing. This is maybe a little bit too much distance still. If I make the app a bit small like this, it kind of looks a bit strange, like how much space this takes. But yeah, then again, if you take a long song like this, it actually feels all right. And we're kind of nitpicking right now. I do think the height is a bit much. So I'm gonna actually, that's the last bit of nitpicking I'll do, I promise. Well, I can't promise you that, but I'll try to contain myself. So this actually I feel is a bit big. Maybe just 8 is fine. Yeah, that's okay. And then the size is also a bit wrong. Let's see, we're gonna adjust that to use text SM. Oh, the text was put on XL. Yeah, that explains it. So we want to kind of move it to LG. Maybe even smaller, maybe just a base. Yeah, I think base is fine. A little smaller is fine. And then in terms of vertical, we need the height to be reduced a little bit. Let's see, what do we have? We have height 24. Let's try to go 20. Yeah, that feels better to me. And if I now start a song, yeah, that looks much better. It's kind of more centered. Not sure if it's perfectly centered, but good. Yeah, happy with that. Happy with that. Maybe this W60 again, a little much. Oh, this is never gonna end. Yeah, this creates a little more space on there. That's better. Good. So where are we gonna go with this music player? We need to add some more stuff. I guess volume control might be nice right now. Let's see. Yeah, some volume control. We also want to be able to mute it completely. And that should be it for now. That's quite simple, quite straightforward. So we need to know the current volume of the track. I guess when we load, we need to just set that, and we need to also store it somewhere. So let's start with storage. So maybe for those who haven't seen it, we have a Zustand state that holds all the data that we are working with. And you can see that in the types, you can actually see what we're storing. So we have tracks, artists, playlists, and then all of these things are put together into a global state. And this state can be accessed from any component. So that's very useful. We can always read any of these things. The amount of seconds that we're playing this track, the currently whether we're playing or not, anything, whether the window is maximized or not, which song has been selected for the view area over here. So we have a lot of stuff in this memory, and now we're going to add some stuff to it because I want to know the volume. I think I'm going to just put this kind of thing just right here. Why not? Volume number. And I guess this number will be from 0 to 1, like a percentage, right? We're going to just do from 0 to 1 and show the volume. Let's see. Now I can adjust it. And also I want to know if I'm muted or not. And I'm starting to think, is that not a config? But yeah, you know, guys, I'm just gonna, maybe I should actually flatten all of this as well. You know, why am I even working within config? That's actually a big one because the way I now have to do update is kind of bad. So I'm gonna do it like this. Yeah. So I need to do a little bit of refactoring if I want to do this, but that will simplify the app. And obviously we want to have a very simple app. And now you can see every place where I do like this, it can just become this, which is much better. I should have done that yesterday. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, there will be a lot of stuff broken now. So let's just slowly go over it and fix it. Let's actually start by going to the store first. So we have the hook, we have the store. And now this is going to be completely error because we have to put everything back, including the values that we're missing, which is muted, which will be false, I guess, by default, and volume, which I don't know what the volume will be. I'll put it on 0.5, assuming it's like half, but that might not be realistic. So I need to make sure to, I guess in the beginning when the app loads, I need to set the volume to what it actually is, or I need to do the opposite. Yeah, let's do the opposite. Let's get it from the state and make the audio element on that volume. Let's start like that. So this will be the leading number. So when you load, it'll be 0.5. Now later, I might actually want to store the volume in a local storage situation. Actually, that is a very good idea. I definitely want to do that. So actually in that case, I want to also read it from local storage. So I need to do a parse float on a local storage get item volume or 0.5. So if we can't get it, it'll be 0.5 and then we'll parse it as a float. That's it. So now we have a way to automatically, when the app loads, it'll have the right volume that you set it last time to, or 0.5 if you didn't set it. And now we just need to set the volume whenever we change it. So that's something we'll do later, but it's interesting. Over here, let's see what we can do. Okay, yeah, now this is also kind of frustrating because we need to have all these values playing. This requires, oh, we don't need config here. It's not dependent on that, you're just setting it. So, I mean, it's dependent on updates. That's all it is. So there we go, there we go. Okay. Change that to okay. Well, there. Let's already add playing then. Playing instead of config. Well, what else? There will be another error somewhere. That's normal playing. We're only looking at playing, nothing else. Okay, yeah, it seems to be the only value we care about, so that's very simple. Let's just search for the word config everywhere. Oh, that was not a good one. It's fine, we'll just hide the forge stuff, the package stuff. Vita. App, this is an interesting one. Yeah, this one is real. So here we care about maximized, so let's just get maximized out. And again, this makes it so much easier. You can just remove all this code. Any commit that removes more than it adds is like an amazing commit for programmers. Like you always want to reduce the amount of code, make things simple, make things less nested if you can. I mean, if it's okay, because again, sometimes nesting is required. But in this case, I was excessively nesting my configuration options. And that is annoying because then updating nested objects is always more frustrating than updating flat objects. And some programmers are a bit scared of having like too many properties here, but honestly, this is still very manageable. You can see it in one easy glance. So I'm pretty happy with this. So yeah, this should all be working now. Let's see, what do we do? There is some more config stuff in the track list. Yeah. And this is selected again. So let's also just get selected out. And then there we go. Is there no, let's see if there's any more config. I mean, for sure there will be. Selected again. Okay, well, that's it. That's very easy. All right, so now we have a much more flat state, easier to work with. And now we can go back to where we were with the player. And we're trying to put volume in. So when the player initially loads, we want to execute some stuff. I guess I can do that in here because this thing, it sets an interval to always say how many seconds this thing is playing. But look, the only dependency array is update, which should never change. So this really only executes once. And that makes it an ideal place where we can say, okay, get me the audio element current. Now, the one thing though is that I need this audio element current to exist. And this use effect might not exist yet. Let's make this a use layout effect so that we at least can make sure that the interface has been rendered, and that should have always rendered the audio element that's over here at the bottom, because use layout effect will execute after the stuff has been rendered, whereas use effect executes before. So if you're gonna do something with current values like this audio element current, like now I don't need this question mark because I know it'll always be there because it has rendered once at least. Although this set interval would have also always waited 100 milliseconds, so this had no problem. But now this one would have had a problem, and now it doesn't. So that's a good solution. So I guess set audio or something, set volume equals, yeah, volume equals seems to be the one. I'm assuming there's going to be a value from 0 to 1. It doesn't say it. Let's open our Mozilla developer now. Yeah, it's going to be a value from 0 to 1. That's great. That's a good assumption. So then we need to set the volume that we have set in the store. Now this is interesting. This is one of those rare cases where I will get the volume out here. Volume. volume and volume. So I'll get the volume out here, but I'm just going to assume, because I already set it into the state as it loads right away, I can just put it here. I know it's a float, I should always exist, but I'm not going to add it here to the dependency array. And the reason I do that is because, look, I don't care if this volume changes. I don't want to execute this layout effect again. So I don't want to actually have this. And I don't mind that we don't get the latest value, because I'm fine with getting the very first value that the store had while this thing executed. So I hope this doesn't, this used to give a couple errors, because React always said, hey, it's always a mistake to use something here that you know is the old value. But yeah, in this case, that's as I planned it. So, and I can already see the error is not there. So the ESLint guys were smart enough to understand that there are use cases where you don't want the latest value. But again, this, for most developers, they do want the latest value of any kind of variable that they use inside here. So it is a bit of a two-edged sword. I think this is the right approach, because again, it should be the developer's choice and you shouldn't blast them with an error when there is no error. I think you can probably still turn it on ESLint, like always fill the dependency array, la 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 la. But again, I think there is no place for that, because in this case, it's a great example of when I want to use the older value and I don't care about the updates. Because remember, if you add volume here, then this will execute every time that the volume is changed, which is weird and frustrating, and you don't want to do that. Well, actually, now that I think about that, if I change the volume, I do want to change the audio element volume, but I don't want to reset this interval. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, so it's actually really easy. What we'll do is we'll make another use layout effect and just put it on there. Just clean it up into two separate concerns, right? No problem. And this one will only listen to volume and then set the thing to that volume. That's actually this is so much cleaner. I should have done this from the start. And now I theoretically don't even have that issue I just described, even though there are still use cases where you want the old version of the variable. But okay, this is fine. This should work. And now the volume should always change if I actually change the volume in the memory. So if I do an update of that volume, the audio element volume will change. Good. So that's a great. And then, oh yeah, right, I almost forgot. I also want to automatically then set the volume using set item. So local storage set item volume. And I want to do a string version of that volume. There we go. I think that's good. All right, so now the volume gets stored also in my storage, so that if I restart the app, then I'll have my volume the same way it was before I reloaded. I guess we can do the same thing with mute, whether we're muted or not. That's interesting. So let's say muted. I think I called it muted, right? Muted, muted. Do we do it in the same? I guess not. I guess again I'll have a separate effect for it. It's starting to get a little bit annoying, but yeah. Let's see. And muted should be a boolean. It is, so that's good. Then we can just muted, muted, muted. Yeah, what do we do here? We set the item to yes or empty, I guess, something like that. So we'll say if it's muted, then we'll say yes, and if it's not, we'll make it an empty one. I think something like that is fine. And then again, we go to our store where we have the value is always false, but that's actually not what we want. We want to local storage get item muted, and then we'll do 2 exclamation marks in front of it. So if it's an empty string, that'll turn into, oh, we'll just do 1, I guess, because an empty string means false. And if you say yes, oh no, 2, because an empty string needs to be false. So the first one turns it to true, because it's the opposite of, like an empty string is recognized as a falsy value in JavaScript. So if you do 2 of them, it'll change the false to true. And if it was a value, it'll be recognized as a truthy, but it's still a string. So the first one changes it to false and the second to true. So this is basically just a conversion. 2 exclamation marks is a conversion to a Boolean, even if it started out as a string. And remember, local storage only stores strings, so that's why we're converting these strings either into a float with parse float or into a Boolean with 2 exclamation marks. That's the simplest way. It's a bit of a trick, but I mean, every programmer that I know knows it. So it's a very reliable trick. Good. Now, what do? We've set them muted, we set the volume, we connected it all up to the local storage, and we've also influenced the audio element itself based on these values. So we've done a lot of work, but now we still need to do the most important part, which is to actually get a little mute button and a draggable value left and right with just like we did this thing, right? Like a little draggable. In fact, it's very similar to that progress bar. Very similar. So actually, let's look at what we did. Because now that I'm thinking about it, we already have a mouse up and a mouse down and stuff like this. That's happening over here. On drag, stop dragging. And we could probably reuse. I don't think so actually, because this on drag takes a look at the progress element, which is hard coded to be the div that everything is in. And so this will be the volume element instead. So frustrating, quite frustrating. It's kind of like, wait, but this is, where do we care about progress element? Everywhere, right? I think this is very interesting. So we want to, when you're dragging, we kind of want to change this element depending on what it is that you're currently dragging. Right? If you start dragging here, then we want to track the progress element. But if you start dragging in the volume, we want to check that element instead. So what to do? I think the best way to do this is to have a third ref. So we're going to have 3 refs. We have a progress elem, a volume elem, which also will be a div, and then the, I guess, selected elem. Oh. Yeah, it's starting to be a little, this could be considered a little dirty, but I don't know. I'm still okay, I guess. I mean, look, programming is a lot about just tolerating complexity and sometimes also just tolerating repetitiveness. I know some programmers who cannot tolerate any repetitiveness or any kind of, yeah, what they would call dirtiness probably, or less optimal, or requires too many lines of code. But remember, lines of code is not actually the only thing that programmers look at. It's actually also complexity. So if I were to create a very complex system and start nesting stuff and automatically replacing things only so I don't have 4 repetitions of a ref, actually it's only 3 because one of them is an audio element which is different, but all these 3 div elements, I could probably turn it into some other kind of system that abstracts away the dragging and the dropping and into a separate component or something like that, that I then pass the parent to. I mean, I could imagine a bunch of other ways to do this, and there are infinite ways to do this, but I want to kind of take the biology approach of just evolution, and we just slowly evolve our UI piece by piece. And when you get evolution, you get sometimes solutions that don't make much sense. Let me give you an example, right? One story I always like is that there is an artery that apparently goes around, like it goes from our neck and it goes down around something and back up, something like that. And that's a relic from when that distance was very small, but it kept stretching, right? As our necks grew and our like evolution pushed forward our the structure of our bodies. But that's actually also the case with giraffes. They have the same genetics and they grew massive necks, but still there is this artery that goes all the way around some stupid little loop around the bottom before it goes back up. And again, it's kind of pointless, and it actually adds a lot of strain onto the heart, I guess, of the giraffe. but it still happened that way because things happen using evolution. It goes step by step. Now, you could ask yourself, like, okay, but we are not bound by evolution in this way. If we see stupid stuff, shouldn't we refactor it? And it's true, right? We should, mostly. But in some cases also like this, where it's a little bit arbitrary, like you could do it both ways. There's not a real strong right or wrong way. I mean, both ways are fine. I would say pick the evolutionary path because that's going to make you faster. And again, my focus here is on speed. Well, it doesn't sound like it when I'm talking for 10 minutes before changing a line of code, but honestly, it is about speed. You should think in your profession, if you work as a programmer, speed is everything. Speed is your income. Speed is your value as a programmer. If you do things slowly, you are just not a good programmer. So let's, you know, stick to evolution, do things faster, and if it's a bit too dirty, we'll evaluate that later. We can also refactor it later. So, you know, we can just push this forward. And again, some programmers think that's a huge problem. I don't think it is. You gotta accept a certain level of just going with it, just a fuck it approach, and move forward, right? I've actually been always quite surprised at how dirty everyone's code is, right? Like there is no clean code. That's like a bit of an illusion. But now when we start dragging, this is interesting. So when we start dragging, it depends a bit what we want to do because so this is the mouse up when we let go, that's fine. This is the mouse move when we are moving, but the one where we go down is the one where we, like on start dragging, is the one where we really want to decide what the element is that we're going to be dragging. And actually, now that I look at this, the mouse down is on here and I put pointer event nones on the rest down here. So I actually don't even need the progress element at all. And that kind of helps my previous point of that I was feeling like progress element is a bit too much, but we don't actually need it at all. And then we also don't need the volume element. So wow, we're actually, it turns out, we're not as dirty as I thought that we were maybe being. Because I can just take the selected element now, it's just a name change basically, and change the selected element when I start dragging, on start dragging, here comes an element. This is going to be a mouse event. And I'm going to make sure that this mouse event, so we're setting the dragging to true, but we're also, before we set that, we set the selected element of current equals the eTarget. And remember this, oh, I don't know why it wouldn't be working. Event missing from, yeah, I think it never recognizes that this is actually an div element. I think it is, I mean, I'm pretty sure it is. So let's just say it is, and then make TypeScript shut up. I mean, it's an event target. I believe this, you're supposed to say here what it is. HTML div element. Because you gotta explain that to the computer. And I think if you, now it's fine. Oh, no, it's not. Why not? Event target is missing the following properties from HTML element. Align and whatever and a bunch of shit more. That's unfortunate. Let's see. T is element, E is mouse event. Yeah, I don't understand it. Is this just mouse event? The normal mouse event? No. Ah, you know, guys, I don't care. This thing should shut up. Oh, sorry, I can't read that. Sir, my exam, help please. Someone in the chat asking for help with their exam, I guess. But I can't read all the everything you're saying. And also, by the way, I'm not here specifically to help with exams. But if you have any question around TypeScript or React or something, of course I can help you. Okay, so let's go. Select element current. We now update the selected element based on where we started dragging, which is very important. And then we're just dragging and tracing where in that element are we and what's the percentage, right? So that's what we're updating. And then we're setting the mouse X to that percentage with a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 1. So that is the thing that keeps that changes the value that we're using. And now this is really interesting because I think, I mean, again, this is going to be hard to debug if we do it later, but I think we can just take this entire square and duplicate it because it should just work. This percentage though, where is this coming from? So this looks at seconds played and track length, so that's fine. Dragging as well. So it's, oh, but it's looking at mouse X. And when mouse X changes, this will change as well. But only if we are dragging. So now this dragging is important because it's like, the question is, what are we dragging? Set dragging. Oh, this can be quite annoying. So I guess instead of true or false, we have to now make it a value of what you're actually dragging. So we start with an empty string, which means we're not dragging anything, right? And then here, on start dragging, the question is, what are we dragging? And how do I define that? I guess I can give this to, yeah, I need to change this. So I'll have to do something where this will be my target, which will be an HTML div element. And then I want to know the, yeah, what's this called? This is like the name of the element or the name of the thing that we're dragging. So we can call it type for now and say that it's either going to be the progress bar. Is that a good name for it? Yeah, I guess. Or the volume bar, right? And then here we can just say the current is target. There we go. And then here we can say set dragging to the type. So dragging is a type now. Okay, so start dragging has been changed quite a lot. Again, we're kind of extending the previous system to include things that let's see, to include things that to be able to drag multiple progress bars, right, with the same logic, because reusing this logic is critical. Okay? There's so much shitty code. Well, it's not that much, but there's so much code going into this calculation. We kind of want to reuse it if we can. And even the word percentage, I'm now going to have to change, because which percentage are we talking about, right? So I'm going to have to update these things. But okay, on start dragging, then here we take the e target, right? We know there's an e coming here. E target we give to there. And then here we know that we're always dragging the progress. Oh, and this, oh, I just want it to be normal. Can you just please? I hope that's not going to bite me, but let's just hard code it like that. Okay, did I already copy this value? No, right? No, I think this is fine, yeah. So this is one of them. The word percentage here is still wrong, so let's change that, I guess, to progress percentage. Progress percentage. Or just progress. Yeah, let's just make it progress. And let's say if dragging equals, wait, it should have a type. Okay, now it doesn't say that because I should have defined it here. So we'll actually do that. We'll say it's either going to be progress or it's going to be, what's the other value? Progress, volume, or it's empty. Okay. Good. Going back. Set dragging to false is now empty string, right? If we're done. And then over here, percentage will become progress instead. And now we should be able to copy this entire value and just put it here. This in this area here, I think. I assume. Now we have our volume bar. But now we need to change everything, or at least not everything, but most of it. Because here we'll say this is a volume instead. And here we'll also change it to volume. It's interesting though, because now we, even though the width is volume, that's correct, we also need to update it now when we stop dragging. I need to think about that because before, well, we'll look at that. Let's see what it does. And this dragging is wrong. This dragging has to equal volume, right? dragging equals volume, and over here it was dragging equals progress. And then this becomes volume 2. Oh, volume. It's interesting because we have seconds played, but we never express progress in percentages in the storage, right? That's a local storage thing, whereas volume, we don't have a local variable for that. So they're kind of operating in different ways, which is not nice. I kind of want it to be the same, but then again, I also don't want to rewrite it all the time. In fact, there's probably some use case to have a local volume as well. No, because volume doesn't have this issue where it has to switch depending on what's being used. Because either we're using it mouse X or actually it does, because you're looking at volume. It either represents the value from the storage or it represents the value that we're dragging and dropping. So the word volume here is annoying because it's already in the global state. We have a value called volume, exactly like that. And that might be very confusing. In fact, we're already loading it, right? Yeah, we're already loading it here. So this is a bit of a name collision issue. We have a local volume and a global volume. And a local volume is not really volume. It's just kind of, we're showing an indicator of where the mouse is sometimes. Or it is the volume. So it's either of these two. With progress, we already split it into seconds played and progress. And now we have volume and the other value is not there. So what do we call that? I guess we'll make it like played progress or something. Because the word progress is a bit weird anyway. Progress, like, a lot about programming is about naming, right? So you got to think of good names that are clear. And I think at this point it's starting to become kind of very unclear what we mean by certain things, right? So, and to explain this, I know I'll find the solution in a sec, but I just want to also talk a bit about it. Like, the problem is here that we need this thing to represent either the position of your mouse when you're dragging like this. So if I, oh, yeah, okay, everything is broken because I haven't fixed it yet. Maybe I should first fix it and then rename the variable. Yeah, let's continue first. Let's continue first, fix this thing. So I'm gonna call it const v. This is probably the worst name I could have given it, but that doesn't matter for now. We're just gonna start with this. Yeah, the same thing. If it's not a track, we also can't change the volume. Actually, yeah, let's not do that. Let's say even if you don't have a track, you can still change the volume, because then when you start playing, it'll be that volume. So we don't care about the track. If the dragging doesn't exist, oh, this is a weird way to write that. Oh, did I not fill? I don't think I filled it in, because this should be if the dragging is progress. Yeah, okay. And here it should be if the dragging is volume. Good, then we're tracking the mouse movements. It's also weird. Why am I doing it times 100? Oh yeah, right, because I want the percentage. Like, I want to say the HTML value of percentage, and that one is not from 0 to 1, it's from 0 to 100. So we need to do times 100, that's fine. And then here's seconds played divided by track length. This is actually the easy one. Here we just take the actual volume. We don't need to look at the track. So I guess this is now good. Yeah, this is fine. So now we have the word V instead of progress. So instead of volume, we take a V. There we go. And now it should, when I'm starting to drag, it should follow my mouse instead. Now, I'm not sure if I did this correctly. Probably not. Let's see. Cannot read properties of null, get bound inclined rectangle. Oh, right. I think, are we updating the selected element correctly? Yes, right. I believe we are. Selected element current is the target. Yeah. But that's only if you start dragging. So sometimes, I guess, I haven't set it yet. That's kind of strange. When is on drag going? Okay, so on drag is always going on, which is weird because again, sometimes we don't have a value. So I guess we'll just say if there is no select element, then return. Right, we're not going to care about the mouse X if we don't have this value. I mean, we can't calculate it, so it's fine. That should be fine. That should kind of at least solve our issue, or that one. Okay, let's see. New error, new chances. Cannot read property undefined, reading selected. Config.selected. Oh, that's an old config is gone. Has been gone for a while. And we'll just update this to selected. Okay, now we're good again. Okay, this tracks. That works. And now this. Ooh, what happened there? I saw a little, and also it's not, it's not storing, but that's okay. That's not a problem. And also the padding is not correct, but actually I'm really happy. Oh, see when I let go, it it changes everything. Okay, well that's a funny bug. Let's see what happens. When I let go, let's drag end on stop dragging. Let's see. Yeah, this is interesting. So now, of course, this is the logic that only needs to go if dragging was if dragging is progress. Then we'll do these two. That's it. And then if the dragging is volume, then we'll do the audio element current volume. Well, actually, I've already done this. I mean, already this thing gets updated automatically when I change the state. I've already done something like that. So really all I need to do is this value. And it's actually much simpler. I can literally say the volume equals the mouse X, and that's it. Bob's your uncle, as they say in England. Not that I'm British, I'm Dutch. Okay, good. It's fine. I mean, this works, right? The volume is actually changing. Everything is nice. But the one issue I'm seeing is that I was clicking and suddenly it went to 0. Is that okay? Like, let's restart. There was a bit of a weird bug there, I think. Easy to glance over, but I kind of want to understand. Okay, so if there's no track, it actually doesn't even work, which is not what I want. So I'll say if and there has to be a track. Progress is dragging is progress, and there has to be a track. But for us here, we don't care. That's better. Oh wait, I actually have to not have a track. Hello. I see someone new in the chat. Guys, I'm a starting streamer. Very recent. I started yesterday. Well, I've done a couple videos before, but not streaming. And I've decided to start streaming to build apps and kind of show people how I build apps using TypeScript. So welcome. Now let's see, why can I not start dragging this thing? Again, we're asking for no track return, but that's only if the type equals progress. There. Takes a bit of work to actually make these functions reusable, but at least it's better than copy pasting all the functions again. How long have I been coding? Well, since I was about 10 years old, so that's 21 years ago. I mean, full time is different. I think I started part time at like professionally at 16, and then full time at 17, 18, something there. So yeah, this now works. But now let's also check if it works if I don't start a song, right? This should still work. Oh, yeah, it is working. Very nice. Good. And now I also need to add a mute button. And I mean, there's so much more work to do. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. So I'm very happy that, you know, these two bars operate individually, but they're reusing the same event handlers. So that makes everything so much more clean from my perspective. Good. Now I think the location of the volume bar sucks a little bit, but even if I look at Spotify, it kind of seems to be not in line with the other thing. Like that's actually correct, which is strange. I did not expect that, but that's the way it is. Also, I see that these text is a bit too big, so let's adjust that. Yeah, I should probably try to have this app open all the time for people who want to see where we are right now, what's the current progress. So here you can see the current situation with the app. And I'll put this a bit on the left so it's easier to see. So we got some random songs that I downloaded, 7 of them, and then I generated 7 using Gemini. Actually, I generated 7 images. One of Dubai, one of the Philippines, one of an old Dutch port, a gym, an element of Cyberpunk, the game, and a mountaintop with a Shinto shrine. Amazing. So yeah, some generated images and some free music, and that allows me to just, you know, make this app, build this app. I was thinking of maybe eventually when I put this online, like how am I gonna support, you know, shall I put things, shall I allow people to upload songs? I mean, you could get into trouble with that too, but it's fun. I mean, for now, I'm not actually planning to launch this software. This software is just something I want to use to explain how to do things, like how to program and to apply all kinds of little tricks. And the goal is that you can just copy things, and because that's the beauty about programming, right? It's not like we're working in actual construction where if you're building a building, you need to get the concrete and pour it. I mean, for us, if you see code that you love, you just select it, you Control C, you take it to your own place, you Control V, and you're done, right? So we can use the fact that it's so easy to move things and copy things, and all we need is one very good code base that you really understand, and then you're going to be very, very fast in your development. So if you have any question about this code base because you want to understand it better, because you might want to copy it or work with it, then ask me, because yeah, I can help you out. And also, I have a GitHub where all this code is, so I can always commit this and then yeah, share it with everybody. So okay, let's keep going. Now we have the volume, it is adjusting, so that's all good. Now I want to still change the padding a little bit of this whole area. Let's see if I can read this correctly. This is the area, so here we want some padding. Currently it's not padded much. At least on the right I want it padded, but actually also on the left I think I want like even quite a bit of padding. Yeah, like that. I really want it visible. In fact, it's actually still a bit too big, but that's going to be fine later, because I'm going to make this a flex element and item center. And then I'm going to go and in here, it's already flex, but I'm going to put here the mute symbol. So what, we need a symbol again. So I did symbols before. Yeah, here we have a symbol. And it's interesting, now we need mute and unmute. Let's see if that's just, you know, muted, FA mute, volume mute. It is the opposite though. It's, you want to unmute when it's muted, so it's volume FA unmute. Oh god, is there no... Uh-oh. Okay, well, we're gonna have to check using Font Awesome and look at the icons and find the name of the unmute button. I'm assuming they have it. I mean, it would be crazy if they have a mute button, not an unmute. Mute, free. That's the one, right? Volume off and volume X. No, it's not off. What is mute then? I just saw the word mute as well. Is that not a free one? I mean, it was called FA volume mute. Volume mute. Okay, let's go for free. That's very strange. I mean, that's fine. I mean, it says volume mute as if it exists. I guess it doesn't. So, well, we'll try the other one. So let's say if I'm muted, I want to unmute. Then actually it will just show what the current state is. Yeah. So actually we should just do volume X mark, volume X mark for when it's muted, and when it's not muted. Yeah, this is interesting because we have 3 levels: off, low, and high. And so we actually I actually think we might want to do this based on that. Yeah, yeah, we do. So okay, let's say I call this the volume icon, and we go over here and we're gonna make a use memo for it. Use memo. Because I don't want to re-render this all the time, and I want to have some logic with a return statement so I don't have to do ternary statements everywhere. So this is going to be much cleaner to put it up here, volume icon. And what are we going to look at? We're going to look at, of course, volume, and we're going to look at muted. And first of all, if we're muted, we're immediately done, because then I know I want the X mark. So that's FA volume X mark. There we go. Now, if my volume is higher than, let's say, 0.7, or 0.6, then we're going to return the full volume, the volume high, FA volume high. Then if my volume is, I guess, higher than 0.3, we return the normal one, volume low. It's weird that they call it low. I mean, that's not too weird. We can actually do, if it's higher than half of the volume, we do high, and if it's higher than 0, we do volume low. And then finally we return FA volume mute. No, off. Because that's different from Xmark. Xmark is like, we've turned it off for you, because you're muted. So there you go. This is a really clean little way of picking the volume icon we like. And then it changes automatically when any of these is changed. So yeah, this seems the right way. Good. Now let's see, is everything fine here? This should be, let's put some class names on here. This thing should take up the whole space, but starting from 0. So it should grow, but with a basis of 0. And this should just be a set with, let's say, how much? 20 pixels. Just saying something. I'm gonna have to do colors as well and everything. So this, where are we now? It sucks. Everything breaks. Oh, I have 2 times the word class name. My bad. Oh, it already was basis. So leave that. Oh, the color has to be defined. So let's say text white. Probably should be. So this is good, except I want, let's see, I want the colors to be a little bit more soft. So what is that text color that I was using here? It's white 50, and the text is SM. I actually want that even smaller, XS. And I'm gonna try to do the exact same thing for the icon. Let's make it a very small icon, and let's not make it too bright. I like it. I actually like it. And then when you hover over it, of course, we can make it full. So hover is text white. And we add a cursor pointer to it. And if you, yeah, there we go. And if you click on it, you change the muted to the opposite of what it is. So on click, I guess I could turn this into, I should do it, but let's see. Update muted is the opposite of muted. So we invert it. But actually, I mean, this is such a small little event handler. I don't really feel like putting it in one of these, you know, one of these you up here, I'm actually fine with just keeping it in here. It's fine. It should not really adjust. It should not really make any difference. Also, I want to turn it into a one-liner, of course, because that's way cleaner. Oh, God. There we go. So now, tick, tick. It's kind of too small. Like, it's a bit too small. SM should be fine. Yeah, but I like that more. And if you're over half, oh, that's weird. Like, okay, see, I'm checking volume, but turns out what I really want to check is V, so that I already update the icon. Oh yeah, I was gonna change that name, right? Because V sucks. Like, V as a name is horrible. Like, what does this mean? But this is the local version of the volume that can sometimes represent instead the location, like, of where I'm dragging. So that's the difference. It's not actually volume. So, I mean, the other thing I called progress in the global state, I called it seconds played. Those two work together, right? So progress is the local one, seconds played is the global one. Now the global one is volume, and the local one is something else. It's kind of also progress. I can also say local volume or volume progress. Like if this is volume progress and this would be play progress, that could work. Then it's 2 times progress. It's dirty. Slider, but it's too general. Like progress and slider. Yeah, I think I'll just do that. So volume progress. I'm not a huge fan. Let me put it that way, but I gotta do something. So I'm gonna call this and also I've called it progress before, or it was either volume or progress in the options for dragging. And that also, this should be played progress. And then this is not progress, but played. So yeah, a lot of text now has to be updated because of these name changes, but I do think progress is too general, right? A progress bar, these are 2 progress bars, so I can't use the word progress for that. But yeah, TypeScript's gonna hopefully help us refactor this kind of easily. And also I just want to read everything again just to make sure that I do it right. Played progress, volume progress. Hey Pallavi. So played progress, volume progress, and how there dragging is played, and this would be played progress. That's good. And over here it would be volume progress. There we go. And this again, volume progress. So now I think I've cleaned up. Oh, and this default here is dreams. That actually I don't want anymore. That thing doesn't even exist anymore. Okay, so volume progress is good, and that's also the thing I want to look at over here in my icon. Because if you look at volume, then look at what happens. It only changes when I let go, right? Because it also looks at the real volume that actually, has been applied. But I don't want that. And in fact, I kind of already want to change the volume. Actually, maybe it's fine to look at the real volume, but I just want to update the volume faster. I want to update it when we're still moving. So how do I do that? We look at the dragging. We need to look at the dragging. Where does it happen? This type is wrong because this is going to be either played or progress, and then here played. There we go. Yeah, now we have played in volume. That's good. But now when I'm moving, so on drag, we set mouse X to this value. Yeah, this is it. I want to say const progress equals this mathmax. We set the mouse X to that progress, but we say if, let's see, if the It's annoying though, because now I would need to make this thing like listen to the dragging, but it's fine. I mean, that's okay. So if the dragging equals volume, then we're immediately gonna already update the volume. So update, but this could fire a lot. Da, 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 da. Yeah, if you want to code, that's really cool, man. I mean, I enjoy it too, but I do have to say that to do it full time all the time, like it's better to be paid. I mean, you kind of have to be paid, right? Like at least I've always found that working is a way better way of getting real problems, and it's also a better way to make it sustainable. But yeah, it's a really cool skill, and I also recommend people to try not to get too upset while they're coding, because yeah, I've met a lot of programmers who get so upset while they're programming. They get so frustrated, and they're like complaining all the time, and the computer is against them. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're fighting all the time. And I always think, man, your cortisol is gonna go through the roof. How did you find the device ID to play the track? How did you find device ID to play the tracks? What do you mean device ID? I'm using the audio elements from HTML5. So I don't have to deal with the actual device ID or anything like that. I just say, look, this is my audio, go play it. And it's the settings of the browser that has been installed to figure out which audio device that is. So in my case, Electron did that work for me. Electron is basically Chrome, right? So it's Chromium, actually, a Chromium app. And that has a built-in selection of the default volume, default device that you want to use. So I think this is all automated away for me. I don't need to think about device IDs or anything difficult. It's basically a different language than the one you're talking about. You're probably talking about something like, I don't know, Java or something, where you have to have lower level control and pick the device. But I don't have that right now. I think I could probably, in Electron, change the settings that like which device is selected and stuff like that. I could build something like that if I wanted control over that. But of course, for now, I'm totally happy with the default. Just like if I play a song in the browser, right, it will just play on whatever the settings of this browser is. And I, as a website developer, don't know what that is. Okay, so we have an update here of the volume. Again, I'm worried that this might fire too often, but you know what? Who gives a shit, right? Who cares? That doesn't matter. So let's say volume equals the progress. And if I do this, now I should actually automatically see this change. Yeah, see, I am seeing this change right away. And the actual volume will also immediately change before I let go, which is kind of important. Whereas when I'm dragging this, well, that's a good question. If I'm dragging this, what do you want to happen while I'm dragging? Do you want to, like right now, it just keeps playing normally. And only when I let go does it go to the area where I want to go. I'm wondering if that's actually also the use case of when I'm dragging this. No, it isn't. Let me check. Let me take a beautiful song. Oh, if I play something that people recognize, then I'm gonna get fucking. I'm gonna get striked. I need to play something useless, something nobody knows. That doesn't matter. Let's just play. I'll play with very soft voice. And turn off this. Okay, so that's interesting. I could hear, so the song keeps playing when I try to drag, right? So if I do this, the song keeps playing, but the update on the left, this will show actually the number of where I'm dragging. So this is different than I expected. But the rest of the logic is fine. Whereas this needs to update as I change things. Ooh, and I could see that weird when I start dragging, it does that weird thing. I think that's because of the mouse X. So if I, yeah, you see, the first time you click, it doesn't really know what to do. So it's kind of a bit buggy. Okay, so we got one bug and one feature that I want to add to this. And of course, I'm going to spend an excessive amount of time working on this player because, I mean, if you're going to build a music app, this is the area where a lot of the user's mouse will spend its time, right? Controlling the music, the sound. And then there will be an area here where you want to switch this and stuff. But This is the area that needs to be kind of almost perfect with lots of little details worked out and bugs removed. And you can see there's a lot of bugs because as soon as I click, it somehow goes full. And I don't understand that because am I moving already? I guess what I need to do is, if I'm moving, let's see, if I am moving, where is that? On dragging. I already said if there's no selected element, then remove, but that's not it. I think I also want to say, or there is no progress, right? Which is kind of the same thing. In fact, I don't even need to look at progress anymore. Well, I can do both. Sorry, dragging, no, not progress, dragging. So if there's no dragging, then I also don't want to count anymore. But the mouse X value is still strange. When I let go, has it already... I know I'm being a bit cryptic right now, but it's kind of... I think what I need to do is use this mouse effect, like I set the dragging, and then I actually execute the on drag itself with the same event. Oh, there is no event anymore because I didn't give the event. Oh, that's kind of painful. So maybe I need to again take the event and then here use the event target as an HTML div. And then here say this is a mouse event. It's a little bit of rewriting, but it is very necessary, I think, to remove this bug. It's kind of, I'm doing this based on intuition, so I might be completely wrong, but I think this is going to help me. Sorry, I need to go to where we start dragging, because now I just want to do the E there. And the other one is there. There you go. Good, so mouse event is now fine, and now I can pass it immediately to the on drag, so that when the first time I start dragging, or I click, is also, I register that as my first move. I think that will fix that that suddenly goes to the max, because I think that's because it's just not updating the value because I haven't moved yet. Okay, a lot of talking, vague, I'm sorry. Let's just see if it actually works. Yeah, it was better, but actually the clicking now is somehow not working. And why not? Because the selected element is not updated. It is updated, right? It's the first thing I do. If you start dragging, I set the selected element current. I set the dragging. But now I think this is wrong because I'm looking at dragging, even though that value hasn't updated yet. And this is a thing that's very frustrating about life cycles in React. Okay, so I'll try to explain this because a lot of programmers don't understand this. And I think it's a big trap. Even though I say set dragging here, over here, if I were to check dragging, it's not updated. This is still the old value before I executed this, right? So it hasn't changed yet because in React, you've got to wait for the next life cycle. It has to re-render this entire function, like starting from here, the player, right? In order to get that value updated in the state. So when you do it here, it didn't change anything. I mean, it changed it for the future, but this is still the current cycle. So when I then execute on drag here and we go over here, it's looking at dragging, but dragging is still not defined. Even though I've defined it here, it's not yet defined. So I gotta understand that dragging is not yet a thing. Now, that is actually so painful now that I think about it, that do I really want to do it this way then? Like, do I want to say, because here again, I'm looking at dragging equals volume, update that. But the first time it won't do that. It won't actually change the volume. So I'll have the same bug that I already had. What I really need to do is check if the selected element, that one is new, if that one equals the volume bar. But there's no easy way to do that. I mean, currently. I could do it. I could make it happen, but it's a little It's a little frustrating. I could have like a second argument that I give to the onDrag. Something like that. Let's see, where is onDrag normally? onDrag is normally executed here, and mouse move, what do we give to this onDrag? It just gets a mouse event. Okay, but that's what I did, right? What is this mouse move? It's a mouse event handler, sure. But then what do I get? Yeah, just tell me what the function looks like. So I can see it only gets an event and there is no second argument. That is good. That is good. That means I'm going to do something strange. I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to say, optionally, you can give a second argument called force drag, which will be either, again, I'm not sure if this is very beautiful, but, you know, we got to do something. Force drag will be that or that. So normally I look at dragging, which comes from here, but sometimes if you give it, I will instead look at force drag. So now it's either one of these things, force drag, and if that doesn't exist, then I'll just use that one. And this is an optional thing, you don't have to give it. There we go. Now I've solved my problem, I think, I hope. So now in onDrag, I can say force this to be the type that I want. There. This code is becoming kind of unreadable in a sense. Like if you weren't me, if you weren't the programmer who wrote it originally, and you look at this, you think, what the fuck is happening? But then again, you know, the thing is, in programming sometimes, I feel like, let's just build something quickly, and let's build it, you know, with code that is not completely horrible, right? At least it's performant, and at least the naming is relatively okay. Maybe a little bit low on the comments, but, and I know that makes it hard to understand, right? I understand. And some people really believe, especially in bigger companies, they're gonna force you to write extremely clearly. But the problem is then the code becomes very large because, yeah, to explain exactly what's going on here, you probably need a lot of comments, but you probably also need a lot of different files, make it really basic. And that, when the size gets too large, there's one big issue that starts to happen for me, which is that it's not fun anymore. Right? If I get too many files, imagine you go into some legacy code base and you see this endless list of files. That depresses me. Like I would never, I don't want to work in that company anymore. Like, and I've really felt a lot of programmers who have this. And when the joy of programming goes away, it's much, much worse than if you enter a code base that is very little amount of code, but it's very complicated. That's actually for most programmers kind of fun, right? So I feel like in industry, in the software industry, software development industry, what happens a lot is that people base their software development practices on people who don't want to program anyway, right? Who just want things to be clean and clear, and if it's a lot, well, they don't like programming anyway, so that's already lost. Whereas the people who actually like programming, they don't mind a little complexity usually, and especially if the guy who wrote it is in your team, because then you can just do a code session game like, hey bro, explain to me what the fuck's going on here. And then that's like me here, right? Like if you guys say like, what's happening in this code base, ask me a question, I can answer it, right? So we can have a fun discussion about a piece of code. And if the naming is shit, I can update it. But in this case, I really need a way to force to change the thing I'm looking at from the default that's in the state to one that I provide, because I've updated the state, but it hasn't updated yet this cycle, but I also still want to execute this function. So, you know, this is an example of where a bit of explanation goes a long way. Maybe I should just put a comment. You know, maybe it's time for my first comment in the entire code base. Let's see. Force drag is meant to... I won't even write it here. I'll write it here, because this is the point where force drag is actually used. Force drag will be used instead of drag. if provided to this function. If provided. And then we'll say this allows you to, this allows, let's make it more specific. This allows on start dragging to how do you write it? To skip the component lifecycle, React lifecycle, or React render cycle. I mean, look, it's still not very clear, but at least I've explained a bit. I put React render cycle in there so you kind of understand this has to do something with updating states and cycling around the component. So that at least gives you a bit of a something to hold and understands that this is a bit of a weird piece of code. I think this is fine. Again, not the cleanest, but good programmers, by the way, like really good React programmers will immediately understand this. Like, because lifecycle is something you always have to deal with, like rendering cycles, when does the state update, how does that work? And people understand already when you execute this within that, that can happen. By the way, also what I should not forget is that onDrag should be, of course, in the dependency array for the onStart dragging, which makes sense. Okay, good. Now, the question is, of course, is our fucking bug gone? If I click here, yeah, now this bug is gone. And of course here we have to play a song, but the bug is gone. So yeah, the bug is gone. Good. That was a lot of talking and very little testing, but yeah, it seems to work. And now if I do this, I want this value to change. Right now it only changes when I let go, but I want this value to change already while I'm dragging. So that's a bit of a calculation. I need to change what we're looking at. Normally we look at played progress. No, at seconds played, I believe. Full seconds. Okay, so I already have full seconds coming from this use memo. So all I need to do is make this use memo much more complicated. Because instead of always looking at the math floor of second played, I need to take a look at what we're dragging. And if we're dragging the right thing, then I need to look at the variable I had for played progress, which I don't think is defined yet here. So I need to move this to below the played progress all the way down. Boom. I'll actually put it right here. Actually, no, I'll put it right up here, because then you get played progress, which is converted using full seconds, and you have volume progress, which is used in the volume icon, right? So it is right. Oh, it isn't. Yeah, it's interesting that here we're still using volume. I actually like using volume progress here too, because that is realistic. I want to show the icon based on where you're dragging, even though I'm now updating it in real time too. It is the better value to use. Okay, ignore that. Okay, now full seconds. If dragging is not the played, then we're gonna take the seconds played. Right, so then return this. But now it means we are dragging played. So then we return the math floor of the, we need to take the track length and do it times the played progress. Because then we get the amount of seconds that we are progressing. Now, of course, this also means that we need the track in here. Okay, I think that's it. And now this is the feature I wanted, so that this is what Spotify does. If I now change this, okay, this is incorrect, like the number is wrong. The number is very wrong, but this is the correct thing. Oh, I think it's 100 times too much, right? Because played progress actually sticks to 100, and I think that's the same here. Volume progress will also be a number like that. So we'll do this volume above this. and then equals 0. Yeah, that's good. And then here we just divide this by 100. I can just put that afterwards. I think that's fine. Yeah, now this is fine. And then when you let go, it goes. That's exactly what Spotify does as well. So good. And then here, again, this works. And you can see when I go over the 50, it goes to full volume, low volume, and nothing. And if I click, it goes empty. Now, this is a feature I saw before. If you unclick in Spotify, right, you've put the slider all the way to the left and you mute. If you unclick, I think it goes to 50%. I believe that's what it does. So I'm going to actually program that in because it does make sense. Like if you unmute, but it was 0, well, you're still not going to hear anything. And it's kind of, it's actually true. Like you fucked up, like the user fucked up, but we're going to help the user. We're going to help the user. We're going to say here that we update the volume, because if the volume, and this is a question, like when do we update the volume? Well, it's when we are currently muted, because you're clicking, but while you're clicking, we're still muted, right? So you want to unmute, and the volume doesn't exist, meaning it's 0. If that's the case, then we're going to put the volume on 50%, and else we're going to stick to just using the volume as it was. I think this is the logic. So now if I do this, bam, see, now it's on half, which is correct. So if I go, yeah, it works. Good. Yeah, we're starting to get a much better player. Again, a lot of work on these little elements, but it works. Mute and scroll. It's working really well. And I think now we're slowly getting to the stage where we can actually start working on the queue. Right? Because right now we've always put the queue, like in the state. Let me show you the state. In this state, we have a queue over here. Here, let me show you the TypeScript of the state. So this queue is a list of tracks in a row. And every time right now, let's take a look at where I use the word queue. So here I'm just loading it, and here I'm saying the track is the first value from the queue, which is good. That's the one we're playing. And then over here, if you play a track, we update the queue, make it an array with just one track inside, the track you clicked on. Right, so if I click here, that will start playing. But that's the thing, is like I want to add more stuff to this queue. And in Spotify, what I use the most, actually, when I use it, is right-click something and then add to the queue. Right, right-click, always right-clicking, always adding to the queue. But I think maybe I'm going to do that next stream, guys, because this stream, how long have I been streaming? Let's have a look. What's going on? I can't really see it. I don't want to have it too long either, actually. Should probably make multiple smaller streams is maybe better. Yeah, anyway, I do feel like we reached a natural endpoint here. So I think I'm gonna go. But yeah, of course I'm gonna commit all this code. So you're gonna find it at my GitHub. I find myself here. Is it just? I don't think this is it. Oh, it is. Okay, good. This is me. And in fact, oh, I see. I haven't made it public, or I haven't pinned it to my profile. Let me pin it. Where to do that? Customize your pins. Music app. There we go. There we go. Music app being the #1 pinned repo now. I haven't added a README yet. Let me also make this commit. So feature, what did I call the last? I guess feed stream 1. So this is feed stream 2. I don't think I have console log. Very good. Sync those changes. It's uploading a bunch of MP3s, but it should be okay. Yeah, and here we go. So that was the update. I hope you guys found it useful. And yeah, next stream. I don't know when the next stream is. It could maybe even be later today. I don't know. Evening stream. But yeah, having a lot of fun. I think the app is starting to really look good. Oh, like Spotify. Yeah, it's very responsive, flex layouts, everything, better demo data this time, fixed a lot of bugs around this little player and the mute button and the volume, generalized the progress slider. So yeah, a lot of things are now going really well. And yeah, I think I want to also start adding things like accounts and signing in, probably sign in with Google. So if you're interested in more of the Node.js server side stuff, that's coming as well. We're not just going to do interfacing. And I think you're really going to like Node.js too. And I'm going to also prepare it to be running in a Docker container, right? In a containerized like cloud, Google Cloud kind of environment, which is also quite affordable compared to all the options. But before we even do that, I'm gonna run it using ngrok. So basically, ngrok is a reverse proxy that allows you to, imagine you're working on your own computer. I remember when I was, 10 years old, and I made my first website, and I wanted to show it to all my friends, and I was like, I don't have a domain, right? I don't have a way to have people go to my website. I can't host it anywhere. I didn't have any money, obviously. So, of course, I started begging my mother for a domain, but that was before. And I wish that back then we had ngrok. So to show you real quick what that is, ngrok. Uh, this is a way, it's free actually, it's great, and it's your app's front door, all in one API gateway, and they make it sound way too complicated, to be honest. I mean, they do much more stuff than just what I use it for, but what you can do with ngrok is you can just run it on your local computer, say, point to this port right on your computer where you're running the local environment, your local host, and this thing will, for free, give you a URL that people can go to, and it will route to your computer, right? So you need to run a piece of software on your computer to do this, but it's very useful to share your work with others, even if you don't have the money to have your own, to have another website. So you can even connect domains to it. So theoretically, you could just pay a domain name, which is like whatever, $15 a year. And I don't know, depends a bit on on the domain name. Some domain names are much, much more expensive, but there are sometimes very cheap domain names, and you can connect them to a proxy on your computer, and then all you need to do is keep your computer running forever, and people can go to your website. And of course, it's not ideal, because if your computer shuts down, your website goes down, right? That's not ideal. But if you are tight on cash and you don't want to, you have a computer that you bought, that could be used as a server, right? All you need is a little reverse proxy like this product provides in order to host your website without any cost other than the domain. So yeah, a lot of cool things to think about and to work with, and I want to show you guys all of that too. So I'm definitely a full stack developer. Right now, I'm really focused a lot on the interface and React and everything, and that's great. And I think that's actually the more complicated side of programming too. I actually think the server-side programming nowadays is pretty easy, especially because I don't want any changes to my data, right? The server-side responsibility is to determine what are we going to send to the front end that it's allowed to see. And then also the other question is, who is the person who's connecting to me, right? So authorization, what is he allowed to see? And authentication, who is this person? Once you've done authorization or authentication on the API side, you can, and authentication is simple because you can just do that with Google or something, or Microsoft or Apple or LinkedIn. Any of these providers can tell you who someone is because they can just sign in with that account, which you should always do, of course. Why create another account system when there are already millions of them out there, right? And honestly, if you have Google and Apple, you probably have everyone because everyone has either an Android phone or a Apple phone. So, what there's always going to be a Google account or an Apple account. Doesn't matter. If you like it, you can add Facebook, LinkedIn. And once you have one of these providers, you have your authentication set up and you're done with that part. Then the only question remaining is authorization, like this user, what is this user allowed to see? And you can put that in the logic of your own system, obviously. So you design it, you go to your state, right? You go to your state like I do here, and you design it, like you define it right here. And then in the server side, you want to check some of that a little bit, depending on how you set it up. And of course, you don't want to give people the ability to change objects that they don't own or see objects they're not allowed to see, right? So that is the one issue that the server should be solving. And maybe it should also do real-time communication, which is a bit of a separate thing, but I'll also get into that. And the rest of all the complexity of actually managing this data is on the front end, right? Once the front end gets what they're allowed to get and can update what they're allowed to update, then what you're actually gonna really do, depending on what the user is doing, you have to do here in the front end. So the front end is, I think, really the more complicated place to program. Now, when I started programming, it was the exact opposite. API programming was the hardest thing ever, where you did almost everything. And the front end was a really ugly HTML page with maybe a little JavaScript widget that would, put a little icon that follows your mouse, some nonsense like that. And it would be relatively simple. And then they would release the script kiddies to build the front end, like me when I was a child, when I was a kid. And they would have the serious engineers doing the Node.js, but or not the Node.js, the API. But over time, things started to change, and the front end became more and more complex. And now these are the most advanced apps you'll see, right? And that's fantastic. I really am a huge fan of that. I think the backend should be simple. I think that was a mistake to try and do it that way in the past. And so now I'm also against complicated databases. I'm against complicated APIs. I want everything to be very, very simple in the back and very, very complicated in the front. And in the front, we're going to do all this sorting out that I've been doing over here, all the state management, all the hover effects and whatever, make it a really nice app that works really well. People expect a lot nowadays. In the past, people didn't. People got a shitty app and they just roll with it. Even now in companies, they are still using quite bad apps. But if you want to make a piece of software for a modern business or even a customer, right? They definitely expect more nowadays. So I'm gonna hopefully keep going with this app until the quality is extremely high. All the features are in, and then of course I'm gonna listen to chat and be like, guys, what are we gonna build now? Like, what's the next feature? Or are we gonna just start a new app? That's also possible. But yeah, there's a lot more to do on this app before it's anywhere. It's starting to look a little bit like Spotify, and this is 2 streams in. So I'm kind of happy with the progress. I also think I'm slowing myself down a lot by talking about all kinds of nonsense, but yeah, it's fun, and I'm just telling you guys what I'm thinking about and what my perspective is on things, being a programmer who's been doing it for a while. And I hope that can help you guys. I already saw a couple guys in the chat that want to start programming, and you know, really hope that you guys can look at what I'm doing here and download the code and kind of see what you can do, get familiar with it, because this is the industry standard. This is how apps are built. And if you can do this and you go to an employer, you say, look, I can do Tailwind, React. I've even worked with Electron. I'm building my own Node.js APIs. First of all, they're not going to believe you if you say all of that. But, if you can actually show it, then yeah, you're in, and it's a really fun job. It usually gives you quite a lot of respect. I mean, it depends a bit on where in the world you are, but most places in the world, you get quite a lot of pay and respect for being a good programmer. And I find it to be very relaxing. Like, it's like meditative for me. Like, you're just kind of solving little problems, creating your own structures, thinking about names, trying to think about something that is hard to see. Hey, Horace, you're there. I've worked with Horace a lot for years actually now. How did you know I was online, man? You follow my YouTube channel. I know there's a bit of a delay, by the way, between when I say things and when the chat comes in for me. I put it on normal because then the quality of the stream is higher. I can put it on low latency, but I thought, a little bit of a delay is no problem. How are you doing, Aris? I was just about to end my stream. I'm building this Spotify clone. Here, let me show you. Oh shit, have I been changing this volume slider behind my screen, behind my big webcam screen? I think so. But yeah, now we've got this volume slider here that changes icon. Got a mute button. We get this, and I can play. Oh, you saw my video yesterday? Yeah, the volume sucked. The volume was bad. But or I mean the volume, the microphone. But now I'm using the right microphone. I hope this one is better. And yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for keeping track of the stuff. But of course, I know that you already know everything I'm doing here. Although maybe the Electron part is new, right? And the Electron part is, I think, pretty exciting. Like, it's really fun. This preloader, you know, you expose this object to the front end, and then you can use this within your normal React code. And then here you deal with the IPC renderer, and that then talks to the main view. And this is like your, what I would almost call server side, like the Electron side. This is the Node.js side that really runs within the computer of the user, not within the website that the interface renders. So in a way, you have three layers now to the whole thing, right? With an Electron app, you have the user's computer, the browser that runs on top of that computer, and then the server that runs on another computer, and that you would all work together. And what I've done here is very basic. I've just took the template that was automatic by Electron Forge, and I connected it like this. And I think what I'll do next stream, maybe I should really get to that, is actually turn this into an app where you get the Microsoft installer, the MSI, right? And you can double click it and install it like a real app. That would be my next step as well. I really want to show you guys how to do that. I mean, there's so many ways to do it, but I have one way that I've done so far that works quite well. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that one. You need to install Wix 3. Anyway, I'll show all of that next stream. And then, yeah, then you can actually build MSI, like real MSIs, and share them with people, put them on a USB disk, like build your software that's just local. And I think it's funny, I've gotten into that quite recently. I didn't do that much before, desktop apps I mean. Before I was just doing mostly websites. Remember, by the way, that other than this renderer, right, there is this renderer over here. This is actually still a completely normal file. Like this could be just as well be a website, right? And it's only the main and preload files that are kind of different and do something that you don't expect or that Electron needs. But within here, it's not necessarily Electron. So you could easily make this whole source folder a website, right? In fact, it already is. So you just need a different, you need some changes in your basic configuration around Vita, but it's actually simpler than Electron, not harder. So yeah, if you want that, then just check out Vita, because I'm using Vita Electron right now, like Electron merged with Vita. But Vita is just kind of, you can use this as a default to also generate static websites. And those websites you can upload somewhere if you want. So that's a very easy way. And then there's also, of course, the amazing Next.js, which is a way to also add server-side in a very nice way that I'm also very familiar with and I really like. They have a couple of very good stuff in here. And they even help you with hosting. There's Vercel, the company behind this, that helps you with hosting. So, but I'm not going to do that in this one. This is not going to be a Next.js app. This is a bit more pure of a front-end standalone app, desktop app with Electron. And the server I'm going to build probably like with pure raw Node.js, no framework, which is, nobody does that. Every developer I've worked with, they're always immediately going to grab something to help them, like Next.js or even worse, Express. But I am fundamentally against that kind of nonsense. You should be able to also program Node.js servers as pure as they come. I think that is a very valuable skill and fun to do, and the code is very clean and small. And if you're going to pick a framework, at least I would probably pick Next.js. I would never pick Express. I don't see why people do that. I mean, it's also a bit older, but most people use Express in a way that makes no sense. Okay, enough with the ranting like an old man. I'm gonna go and have breakfast. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching. And share the channel if you can, if you're still here. Thank you very much. I'm trying to grow the channel, trying to do this more often, kind of share what I understand, what I know. Hope to interact also with the chat more. And yeah, we'll do another stream soon. So I'll be